The stars were quiet in the Kepler Nebula when the human ships appeared. 12 small vessels moved slowly through space, their metal hulls gleaming under the light of distant suns. They looked tiny compared to the vast emptiness around them. Admiral Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, watching the colorful gas clouds drift past his ship. He was a calm man with gray hair and kind eyes. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. The bridge felt peaceful, like a library where people whispered so they would not disturb others. "Sir, we are getting some strange readings," said Commander Do-hyun from his seat at the tactical station. He was young but smart, always checking and double-checking his instruments. "There are big ships coming toward us, really big ships." Kyung-ho walked over to look at the screen. The dots on the display were moving fast, and there were many of them. More dots kept appearing as the sensors picked up new contacts. Soon the screen was covered with red marks, all heading straight for the human fleet. "How many?" Kyung-ho asked. "Over 300 ships, sir. They are much larger than ours." Do-hyun's voice stayed steady, but his fingers moved quickly over his controls. "They will be here in 10 minutes. On another ship called the Resilience, Captain Sora was seeing the same thing. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who never missed anything important. Her ship was built to protect the others, and she took that job seriously. "All crew to battle stations," she announced. But she did not sound worried. She sounded like someone getting ready for an interesting day at work. Her officers moved to their positions without panic. They had trained for this moment, though they had hoped it would never come. The humans had been exploring space for only 50 years. They knew they might meet other people out here among the stars. Commander Woo Jin was on the science ship Discovery when the alien fleet appeared. He was a thoughtful man who loved to learn new things. Even now, with hundreds of enemy ships approaching, he felt excited. They were about to meet their first alien race. "Start recording everything," he told his science team. "This is the most important day in human history." Dr. Bo-ram worked at her station, taking readings of the approaching ships. She studied how other life forms lived and behaved. The ships coming toward them were huge and built for war. But she noticed something interesting in the way they moved. They flew in perfect formations like they were trying to scare someone. The alien ships arrived like a storm cloud blocking out the sun. They were dark gray and covered with weapons. Some were as big as human cities. The smallest ones were still 3 times larger than the biggest human ship. At the center of the alien fleet was a massive vessel that looked like a floating fortress. Its hull was black metal decorated with sharp spikes and glowing red lights. This was the flagship of Supreme, Commander Vexthul of the Veltaran Empire. Vexthul was tall and thin with purple skin and 4 arms. He had been commanding fleets for over 200 years. In all that time, no one had ever challenged the might of his empire. The Veltarans ruled 10,000 star systems, and every species they met either joined them or was destroyed. "These are the new creatures?" Vexthul asked his second-in-command. His voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Yes, Supreme Commander. They call themselves humans. Our scouts found them 3 days ago in the Outer Rim territories." Vexthul looked at the human ships on his main screen. They were so small and simple. Their design was clean and smooth, nothing like the threatening look of Veltaran warships. To him, they looked like toys. 12 ships against our 300, he said, with a sound that might have been laughter. "They must be very brave or very stupid." The Supreme Commander activated his communication system. When he spoke, his words were automatically translated into human language by advanced computers. "Unknown vessels, you have entered territory belonging to the Veltaran Empire. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." On the Harmony, the communication officer Nara received the message. She was a friendly young woman who spoke several human languages and had studied alien communication theories. She looked at Admiral Kyung-ho and raised her eyebrows. "Well, they certainly get straight to the point," she said. Kyung-ho smiled. It was not a worried smile or a fake smile. It was the smile of someone who found life interesting, even when it got complicated. "Open a channel," he said. "Let me talk to them." Nara pressed some buttons, and suddenly Admiral Kyung-ho's voice was being broadcast to every ship in the alien fleet. "Hello there," he said in a warm, friendly tone. I am Admiral Kyung-ho of the United Earth Fleet. We come in peace and friendship. We are explorers, not warriors. We would very much like to meet you and learn about your people." The message reached the Veltaran flagship, and Vexthul listened with growing confusion. The human leader sounded like he was inviting them to dinner, not facing down a superior military force. "Did he just say hello there?" asked the Supreme Commander's aide. "I believe so, sir. And he mentioned something about peace and friendship." Vexthul had conquered 47 different species in his career. Some had begged for mercy, others had tried to fight, many had simply run away. But none had ever greeted him like an old friend. Perhaps their translation system is broken, he decided. Send the message again, but make it clearer. This time, Vexthul's voice boomed across space with more authority. "This is your final warning. Surrender now or face the full power of the Veltaran Imperial Navy. We have weapons that can turn your ships into dust." On the Discovery, Commander Wu Jin was studying the alien ships with his instruments. Engineer He-jin worked beside him, a brilliant young woman who understood technology better than anyone else in the fleet. "Their ships are old," she said quietly. "Really old. The design looks like it has not changed in hundreds of years." "What does that mean?" Wu Jin asked. "It means they stopped trying to make things better a long time ago. They just kept building the same ships over and over." Meanwhile, Admiral Kyung-ho was preparing his response to the second alien message. He looked around at his crew, and they all looked back at him calmly. No one seemed afraid. If anything, they looked curious. "Nara, open the channel again," he said. "This is Admiral Kyung-ho again," his voice carried across the void. "We understand you are very powerful, and we respect that. But we are not here to fight or take anything from you. We are here to explore and maybe make new friends. Could we perhaps sit down and talk about this like civilized beings?" Engineer Tai Min was listening from the engine room of the Harmony. He was an older man with rough hands and a clever mind. He had built most of the systems that kept their ships running. As he listened to the alien threats, he started to smile. "Chief?" one of his assistants asked. "Why are you smiling?" "Because," Taemin said, checking his instruments. "They have no idea what they are dealing with." Back on the Veltaran flagship, Supreme Commander Vexthul was starting to feel annoyed. These humans were not acting the way conquered species were supposed to act. They should be scared. They should be begging. Instead, they kept talking about friendship, like they were meeting at some kind of social gathering. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "I am reading some unusual energy signatures from the human ships. Their technology does not match anything in our databases." "Impossible," Vexthul said. "They are a primitive species. How could they have technology we do not understand?" But even as he said it, something about the calm way the humans spoke was making him uncomfortable. In his long career, he had learned to recognize fear. These humans showed no fear at all, and that made him very nervous indeed. The silence in space felt heavy as both fleets waited. On the Veltaran flagship, Supreme Commander Vexthul stared at the small human ships on his screen. They just floated there peacefully, like they were taking a nice walk in a park instead of facing the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "Run a deep scan on their vessels," Vexthul ordered his science officer. "I want to know exactly what kind of weapons they have." The Veltaran scanners worked for several minutes, sending invisible beams of energy toward the human ships. The results that came back made everyone on the alien bridge look confused. "Sir, this is very strange," the science officer reported. "Their ships show energy patterns I have never seen before. There are power sources that do not match any known technology, and their hull materials seem to be changing." "Changing how?" "The metal appears to be shifting its structure on a molecular level. It is like their ships are alive somehow." Vexthul felt a cold feeling in his stomach. In 200 years of conquest, he had never encountered anything like this at the human ship Discovery. Engineer Hyjin was watching her own instruments carefully. She could see the alien scanners trying to understand human technology, and it made her want to laugh. "They are looking at our adaptive hulls," she told Commander Wu Jin. "Our ships can change their structure to handle different situations, but their scanners think our ships are some kind of living creatures. Should we explain?" Wu Jin asked. "Let them figure it out," Hyjin said with a grin. "It might be good for them to be confused for once." The humans had built their ships very differently from other species. Instead of making them as strong as possible, they made them smart. The hulls could become harder when hit by weapons, or softer when they needed to absorb impact. The engines could change how they worked depending on what kind of space they were flying through. To the Veltarans, this looked like magic. On the Harmony, Communication Officer Nara was trying to have a proper conversation with the aliens. But every time the humans said something friendly, the alien translation computers turned it into something threatening. "We humans love a good challenge," Captain Sora had said during one transmission, meaning that humans enjoyed solving difficult problems. But the Veltaran computers translated this as, "Humans love to attack strong enemies." When Admiral Kyung-ho mentioned that humans always find a way to adapt, trying to explain that his people were good at learning new things, the aliens heard, "Humans always find a way to destroy their opponents." Nara could see the problem in the translation logs. But she did not know how to fix it. The alien computers were designed for a military empire that only understood conquest and submission. They had no words for cooperation or friendship. "Admiral," she said quietly, "I think they are misunderstanding everything we say. Their computers think we are making threats when we are trying to be nice." Kyung-ho nodded. "Keep trying. Maybe we can work through this." But on the Veltaran flagship, Supreme Commander Vexthul was becoming more worried with each human message. These strange creatures seemed to be bragging about their ability to fight and adapt, and their ships had technology that his science officers could not understand. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the human ships are beginning to move." This was true. The human fleet had started to spread out slowly, not like they were running away, but like they were getting ready for something. Captain Sora had moved her ship Resilience into a position where she could protect the other vessels. Commander Wu Jin was adjusting his course to get better sensor readings of the alien fleet. To the Veltarans, it looked like the humans were taking battle positions. "They are preparing to attack," Vexthul decided. "A tiny fleet against our massive force. They must have some kind of secret weapon." On the science ship Discovery, Dr. Boram was studying the aliens through her instruments. She could read their biological signs from this distance, and what she saw surprised her. "Commander," she told Wu Jin, "the aliens are getting more stressed. Their heart rates are going up, and their body chemistry shows fear." "Fear? But they have 300 ships, and we have 12. "That is exactly why they are afraid," Boram explained. "They know they should win easily, but something about us is making them nervous, and they do not understand what it is." She was right. The Veltarans had built their empire on fear and overwhelming force. When other species saw their massive fleets, they either surrendered immediately or were quickly destroyed. The Veltarans had not fought a real battle in over a century. They had forgotten what it felt like to face an unknown opponent. Meanwhile, the humans were acting like this was all perfectly normal. Engineer Taemin was in the engine room of the Harmony, making small adjustments to the ship's systems. His assistants, Young-soo and Yoon-bi, worked beside him, checking power levels and running diagnostics. "Should we power up the defensive systems?" Young-soo asked. "Already done," Taemin said calmly. "But keep it quiet. No need to make our new friends more nervous than they already are." The human ships had defensive systems that were very different from the heavy armor and energy shields used by most species. Human technology focused on not getting hit in the first place. Their ships could bend space around themselves, making enemy weapons miss by tiny amounts. They could also absorb energy from attacks and use it to power their own systems. But to alien scanners, these systems looked like nothing at all. Pilot Jae-sung was at the controls of his fighter ship, one of the smallest vessels in the human fleet. He was young and loved to fly, always looking for new ways to move through space. Right now, he was practicing some basic maneuvers, just to stay sharp. The Veltaran sensors watched his ship twist and turn in ways that should have been impossible. He was moving too fast for the size of his engines, and turning too sharply for his ship's mass. According to Veltaran physics, what he was doing could not work. "How is that small ship moving like that?" Vexthul demanded. "Unknown, sir. Their propulsion technology does not follow standard principles." Navigator Minji was on the bridge of the Harmony, updating their star charts with information about this region of space. She noticed something interesting about the area where both fleets were positioned. "Admiral," she said, We are very close to some unusual stellar phenomena. There are quantum fluctuations and gravitational anomalies all around us. Dangerous? Kyung-ho asked. Not to us. Our ships can handle this kind of environment. But ships built with older technology might have problems. Kyung-ho understood. The humans had chosen this area to explore because the strange physics here might teach them new things about the universe. But for the Veltarans, this was hostile territory where their ships might not work properly. The misunderstandings kept getting worse. When Dr. Gite, the fleet psychologist, suggested that both sides could benefit from cultural exchange, the Veltaran computers translated this as, both sides will suffer from violent conflict. When Intelligence Officer Su Young mentioned that humans are good at finding creative solutions, the aliens heard humans are good at creating deadly surprises. Supreme Commander Vexthul was running out of patience. These humans were clearly more dangerous than they appeared. Their technology was advanced beyond his understanding. Their ships moved in impossible ways, and they kept making what sounded like threats while claiming to want peace. Enough of this, he decided. Charge. All weapons. If they want to play games, we will show them the price of challenging the Veltaran Empire. Warning alarms began to sound throughout the alien fleet as 300 warships powered up their weapons. Energy cannons that could destroy planets began to glow with deadly light. Missile tubes loaded with warheads capable of cracking moons prepared to fire. On the human ships, sensors detected the weapons charging up. But instead of panic, there was just quiet efficiency as the crews prepared for what might come next. Well, Admiral Kyung-ho said to his bridge crew, it looks like talking time is over. Let's show them what humans can do when we put our minds to it. And despite everything, he was still smiling. The space around the Kepler Nebula lit up with the glow of 300 alien weapons charging to full power. The Veltaran fleet looked like a constellation of angry red stars, each one promising death and destruction. Against this overwhelming display of force, the 12 human ships seemed tiny and helpless. Supreme Commander Vexthul felt satisfied as he watched his weapons reach maximum charge. This was how things were supposed to go. Show overwhelming power, and the enemy would surrender or be destroyed. It had worked for 200 years. Fire! He commanded. The alien fleet unleashed a storm of energy that could have turned a small moon into dust. Thousands of plasma bolts, energy beams, and guided missiles raced toward the human ships. The attack was so massive that it looked like lightning made of pure destruction. On the bridge of the Harmony, Admiral Kyung-ho watched the incoming fire with calm interest. Around him, his crew worked at their stations without panic or fear. They had trained for this moment many times. Evasive maneuvers, he said quietly. What happened next made every Veltaran in the alien fleet question everything they thought they knew about space combat. The human ships simply were not there when the weapons arrived. It was not that they moved out of the way quickly. They had not used any kind of faster-than-light jump. One moment they were in the path of certain destruction, and the next moment they were somewhere else entirely. Captain Sora's ship resilience seemed to phase through a massive energy beam, like it was made of light instead of metal. The beam passed right through her ship without touching it, then continued on to hit empty space. Commander Wu Jin's science vessel Discovery was surrounded by a cloud of missiles that should have destroyed it completely. Instead, the missiles suddenly changed direction and flew back toward the ships that had fired them. Pilot Jae-sung's small fighter ship was caught in the middle of 3 different energy beams. But somehow, the beams bent around his ship like water flowing around a rock in a stream. What just happened? Vexthul demanded from his bridge. His tactical officer stared at his instruments in confusion. Sir, our weapons hit their targets perfectly, but the targets were not damaged. In some cases, our own weapons are now coming back at us. That is impossible. But impossible or not, it was happening. Across the Veltaran fleet, ship captains were reporting the same thing. Perfect hits that caused no damage. Weapons that turned around and headed home. Ships that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. In the engine room of the Harmony, Chief Engineer Tae-min was working with calm efficiency. His hands moved over control panels while his assistants Young-soo and Yunbi monitored the ship's systems. Quantum uncertainty field is stable. Young-Soo reported. Gravitational lensing is working perfectly, Yunbi added. Tae-min smiled. The beauty of human engineering. We do not try to stop the universe from working. We just convince it to work. Differently, the humans were not using traditional shields or armor to protect their ships. Instead, they used the strange physics of the universe itself. They could make their ships exist in multiple places at once, so weapons would hit the wrong location. They could bend space-time around their vessels, making energy beams curve away, harmlessly. Most incredible of all, they could use quantum mechanics to make attacks uncertain about whether they had actually hit anything. Engineer Hyejin was at her station on the Discovery, her fingers dancing over holographic controls. She was not just operating the ship's defenses, she was conducting them like a symphony. Redirecting plasma flow from their forward batteries, she announced. Sending it back to them at half power. We do not want to hurt anyone. The human technology was not designed for war. It was designed for exploration in the dangerous regions of space, where normal physics did not always work correctly. But it turned out that the same systems that let them study black holes and navigate quantum storms also made them almost impossible to hit in battle. Navigator Min-ji was using the strange properties of the nebula to her advantage. The quantum fluctuations that would damage Veltaran ships were like friendly currents to human vessels. Taking us through the gravitational shear, she reported calmly. Their ships cannot follow us there. She was right. When some Veltaran vessels tried to pursue human ships into the stranger parts of the nebula, their systems began to malfunction. The quantum effects that humans used for propulsion made alien computers crash and alien weapons fail. On his fighter ship, Jae-sung was having the time of his life. He flew through the alien formation like he was dancing, spinning between massive warships that could not turn fast enough to track him. "This is amazing," he called over the communication system. "Their ships are so big and slow, it is like playing tag with buildings." The Veltaran ships had been built for straight-line battles between massive fleets. They were powerful but not agile. Human ships were designed to explore strange places where agility and adaptability mattered more than pure firepower. Dr. Boram was monitoring the alien crews during the battle, and what she saw made her feel sorry for them. Their stress levels were going through the roof. Their careful formations were falling apart as ships tried desperately to hit targets that kept disappearing. "They are panicking," she reported to Commander Wu Jin. "Their entire battle plan was based on overwhelming firepower. They have no idea what to do when that does not work." The Veltaran Empire had grown lazy over the centuries. They had become so used to winning through intimidation that they had stopped innovating. Their ships, their tactics, even their thinking, had become rigid and predictable. Humans, on the other hand, had spent 50 years pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Every human ship was packed with experimental technology and creative solutions to impossible problems. Strategic advisor Chan Wu was watching the battle from the Harmony's command center, taking notes on alien tactics and weaknesses. He was a thoughtful man who liked to understand how things worked. "Admiral," he said to Kyung-ho, "they are not really trying to destroy us anymore. They are just firing randomly, hoping something will work." It was true. The careful Veltaran attack. Formations had dissolved into chaos. Ship captains were making up their own tactics as they went, and none of them were working. Medic Hosiak was ready in the ship's medical bay, but so far no human had been injured. The alien weapons simply could not connect with their targets. "Should I prepare for casualties?" he asked over the communication system. "I do not think that will be necessary," Admiral Kyung-ho replied. "These aliens are more confused than dangerous." Engineer Si-jin was working on a special project in her workshop. She had been studying the alien weapons signatures, and she thought, she could help them. "Admiral, I think I can disable their weapons without hurting anyone," she reported. "Their energy systems are very simple. I can send a feedback pulse that will overload their power grids safely." "Do it," Kyung-ho said. A moment later, invisible waves of energy flowed out from the human ships. When they reached the Veltaran fleet, something interesting happened. Instead of destroying the alien weapons, the pulse simply turned them off. One by one, across 300 warships, weapons systems shut down peacefully. No explosions, no damage, just quiet systems going to sleep like tired children. On the Veltaran flagship, Supreme Commander Vexthul watched his entire fleet become defenseless in a matter of seconds. But the humans did not attack. They just floated there in space, still calm, still smiling in their communications. "Sir," his tactical officer said quietly, "we have no weapons, no shields, and our engines are running at minimum power. We are completely helpless." Vexthul had never felt so confused in his entire life. These humans had just demonstrated that they could destroy his entire fleet without breaking a sweat. But instead of finishing the job, they had simply made it impossible for the Veltarans to fight back. Then Admiral Kyung-ho's voice came over the communication system again, still friendly and patient. "Well, that was exciting," he said. "Now that we have gotten the fighting out of our systems, would you like to try talking again? We really would like to be friends." The Supreme Commander of the most powerful military force in the galaxy stared at his screens and realized something that terrified him more than any weapon could. These humans were not just more advanced than his people, they were better than his people, and they wanted to be friends anyway. For the first time in 200 years, Vexthul did not know what to do next. Supreme Commander Vexthul sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed his entire fleet disabled and defenseless. 300 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy had been turned into floating museums by 12 small exploration vessels. The silence on his bridge was complete except for the quiet humming of life support systems. "Get me a priority channel to the High Council," he said finally. His voice sounded tired. The communication took several minutes to establish. When the holographic images of the Veltaran High Council appeared before him, their purple faces showed the arrogance that came from ruling 10,000 star systems for over 1,000 years. "Supreme Commander," spoke High Counselor Zethrak, the leader of the council. "Your report said you encountered a minor species. Why are you requesting emergency contact?" Vexthul chose his words carefully. "Honored counselors, the situation has become complicated. The species calls itself human. They have technology that we do not understand." "Impossible," snapped Counselor Yexhai. "We have the most advanced science in the galaxy. No primitive species could surprise us." "They disabled our entire fleet without destroying a single ship," Vexthul continued. "Our weapons cannot hit them. Their ships phase through our attacks like they are not really there." The council members looked at each other with expressions of disbelief and growing worry. "You are telling us," High Counselor Zethrak said slowly, "that a few small ships defeated 300 of our best warships?" "Not defeated, Honored Counselor. They simply made it impossible for us to fight. And then they asked if we wanted to be friends." The last part made the council members look even more confused. In 1,000 years of conquest, no one had ever defeated them and then offered friendship. While the Veltaran leadership tried to understand what had happened, the human ships were busy helping their former enemies. Dr. Gitai had started broadcasting cultural information to the disabled alien vessels. Dr. Gitai was a patient man who understood how different peoples thought and behaved. He knew that the Veltarans were probably very confused right now, so he tried to explain human ideas in simple terms. "Hello, friends from the Veltaran Empire," his voice carried to every ship in the alien fleet. "We know this situation is strange. For you, humans believe that all thinking beings can work together and help each other. We do not want to conquer anyone or take anything from you. We just want to explore the universe and make new friends along the way." On dozens of Veltaran ships, crew members listened to these broadcasts with growing amazement. The humans were teaching them about something called cooperation, where different species could work together instead of one ruling over the other. This idea was so alien to Veltaran, thinking that many of them could not understand it at first. Their entire civilization was built on the concept of the strong ruling the weak. The idea that equals could work together was completely new. Intelligence Officer Su Young was using her computers to listen to Veltaran communications. What she heard made her understand a lot about their empire. "Admiral," she reported to Kyung-ho, "I am picking up their internal messages. They are very worried, but not about us destroying them. They are worried about what their own people will think." "What do you mean?" "Their empire is held together by fear. Everyone believes the Veltarans are unbeatable. If word gets out that 12 human ships defeated 300 of their best warships. Their whole empire might fall apart. Kyung-ho nodded thoughtfully. So they are not just afraid of us. They are afraid of looking weak. Exactly. And there is something else, Admiral. From what I can tell from their communications, they have not had to fight a real battle in over a century. They win by showing up with overwhelming force and scaring people into surrender. This explained a lot about why the Veltarans had been so confused during the battle. They had no experience fighting against an enemy that could not be intimidated and would not give up. On the science ship Discovery, Engineer Hee-jin was analyzing the alien technology. What she found made her feel sorry for the Veltarans. "Commander," she told Woo-jin, "their technology is really old. Some of these designs have not changed in 500 years. They stopped trying to make things better a long time ago." Why would they do that? Because they did not need to. When you can win every fight by having more ships than the other side, there is no reason to build better ships. The Veltaran Empire had become a victim of its own success. They had grown so powerful that no one challenged them anymore. Without challenges, they had stopped growing and learning. Meanwhile, humans had spent 50 years constantly facing new challenges as they explored space. Every problem they solved made them smarter and more creative. Every new discovery taught them something that might be useful later. On his fighter ship, pilot Jae-sung was flying circles around the massive Veltaran flagship, not to threaten it, but just because he could. The alien ship was so big and clumsy that avoiding its sensor locks was easy. "This is like flying around a mountain," he reported cheerfully. "A very slow, very predictable mountain." The Veltaran crew watched helplessly as the tiny human ship danced around their vessel. Their targeting computers could not get a lock. On something so small and agile, Dr. Boram had continued monitoring the alien crews, and she was seeing some interesting changes in their behavior. "Commander, something is happening on their ships," she told Woo-jin. "The stress levels are going down. Some of the crew members are starting to sound curious instead of afraid." She was right. As the immediate threat of battle faded, some Veltarans were beginning to wonder about these strange humans who had defeated them so easily, but refused to act like conquerors. Captain Dayun was in charge of the supply ship that carried food and medical supplies for the human fleet. She had been listening to the reports from the other ships, and she had an idea. "Admiral," she called Kyung-ho on the communication system, "some of their ships took damage when they tried to follow us into the quantum fields. Permission to offer aid?" "Granted," Kyung-ho replied immediately. "If they are hurt, we should help them." This decision shocked the Veltaran crews even more than losing the battle had. Captain Da-eun's ship moved slowly toward the damaged alien vessels, broadcasting offers of medical aid and engineering assistance. On the Veltaran High Council's emergency communication, the counselors were having a heated argument. "This is impossible," Counselor Yexhai insisted. "A primitive species cannot have better technology than we do." "But if they do," said Counselor Mexvol thoughtfully, "what does that mean for our empire?" High Counselor Zethrak was thinking the same thing. If humans could disable Veltaran fleets, what would happen when other species learned about it? Would they start to rebel? Would the empire that had lasted 1,000 years collapse in a few days? "Supreme Commander," he said to Vexthol, "you will say nothing about this encounter to anyone. This information is classified at the highest level." But Vexthol knew it was too late for that. Thousands of Veltaran crew members had witnessed the battle. They had heard the human broadcasts about cooperation and friendship. The secret was already spreading. On the bridge of the Harmony, Admiral Kyung-ho was reading reports from his ships. Engineer Si-jin had successfully restored power to several Veltaran vessels. Medic Hoseok was treating injured alien crew members. Navigator Minji was helping lost Veltaran ships find their way out of the dangerous parts of the nebula. "Admiral," Communication Officer Nara said, "I am getting some interesting messages from the alien crews. Some of them are asking questions about human society and technology. They want to know how we built ships that can do what ours can do." "Answer their questions," Kyung-ho said. "Knowledge should be shared." Strategic advisor Chan Woo was putting together a report on everything they had learned about the Veltaran Empire. What he discovered was both sad and frightening. "Admiral, their empire is like a house built on sand," he reported. "It looks strong from the outside, but it could collapse at any moment. They rule through fear, but they have forgotten how to actually fight. If their own people ever realized how weak their leaders really are, revolution, Kyung-ho finished, which would probably be very bloody and hurt a lot of innocent people. Exactly. We may have accidentally started something that could destroy their entire civilization. Kyung-ho thought about this for a long moment. The humans had come here to explore and learn. They had not wanted to start a war or topple an empire, but now they were faced with the consequences of being better than they had any right to be. "What do you think we should do?" he asked. Chan-woo smiled. "What humans always do, Admiral. Find a creative solution that helps everyone." But even as he said it, they could all see that this problem was bigger than anything they had faced before. They had not just defeated a fleet. They had accidentally revealed that the greatest empire in the galaxy was built on lies, and now they had to figure out how to fix it before everything fell apart. 3 days had passed since the battle that was not really a battle. The human ships remained in the Kepler Nebula, but now they were not alone. Dozens of Veltaran vessels floated nearby, their crews working alongside humans to repair damage and share knowledge. Engineer Si-jin had set up her workshop on one of the damaged alien cruisers. She worked side by side with Veltaran engineers, showing them how human technology could fix problems that their own systems could not handle. "Your power distribution network is very rigid," she explained to Chief Engineer Kolnex, a tall Veltaran, with 4 arms and a curious mind. "It works fine when everything goes according to plan, but it cannot adapt when something unexpected happens." Kolnex watched as Si-jin installed small human devices throughout the alien ship's power system. The devices were simple, but they could learn and change based on what the ship needed. "With these adaptive controllers, your ship will be able to handle damage much better," Si-jin continued. "If one power line is broken, the system will automatically find another path." "But why would you help us improve our ships?" Kolnex asked. "We tried to attack you." Si-jin looked up from her work with a smile. "Because that is what humans do. We help people. It does not matter if they were our enemies 5 minutes ago. If they need help now, we help them." This kind of thinking was completely alien to the Veltarans. In their empire, you helped your own people and hurt everyone else. The idea that someone would help a former enemy was so strange that many Veltaran crew members thought it must be some kind of trick. But as the days passed and the humans kept helping without asking for anything in return, some aliens began to understand that this was not a trick. This was just how humans were. Captain Da-un had turned her supply ship into a floating hospital and aid station. Medic Ho Seok worked around the clock treating injured Veltaran crew members. Many of them had been hurt when their ships tried to follow human vessels into the dangerous quantum fields. "Your anatomy is different from humans, but not too different," Ho-seok explained to a Veltaran medic named Yiltara as he worked on a patient with a broken arm. "The important thing is to understand how your body heals itself, then help it. Do that better." Yiltara watched carefully as Ho-seok used human medical devices to speed up the patient's healing. The technology was gentle and smart, working with the body instead of forcing it to get better. "Human medicine is very different from ours," Yiltara observed. "We use powerful drugs and invasive procedures. You use small adjustments and careful guidance. We learned a long time ago that the body usually knows how to fix itself," Ho-seok replied. "Our job is just to give it the right tools and get out of the way." The philosophical differences between humans and Veltarans were becoming clear. Humans believed in working with natural systems and helping them work better. Veltarans believed in overpowering natural systems and forcing them to obey. On the Discovery, Commander Woo Jin had set up what he called the Cultural Exchange Center. Humans and Veltarans gathered there to share stories, compare technologies, and try to understand each other. Diplomat Ye Jin was leading many of these discussions. She was a patient woman who loved learning about different cultures. She had studied human history and knew that even humans had not always been good at cooperation. 500 years ago, humans fought wars with each other all the time, she told a group of fascinated Veltaran officers. "We had many different nations, and they all wanted to be the strongest. But we learned that working together made everyone stronger than fighting alone." "How did you learn this?" asked Captain Relmok, who commanded one of the Veltaran cruisers. "The hard way," Yejin admitted. We had wars that almost destroyed our entire planet. We had weapons that could have killed everyone on Earth. Finally, we realized that we had to choose between cooperation and extinction, and you chose cooperation. We chose to survive. And we found out that cooperation was not just safer than war, it was also more fun. This idea of fun confused many Veltarans. Their society was very serious and formal. The idea that work could be enjoyable, that learning could be exciting, that meeting strangers could be wonderful instead of dangerous. These concepts were hard for them to grasp. But some of the younger Veltaran officers were beginning to understand. They watched human crew members laughing while they worked, sharing jokes while they solved problems, celebrating small victories together. The humans made everything look easy and enjoyable. Intelligence Officer Su Young continued to monitor Veltaran communications, and what she heard worried her. The news of the humans' victory was spreading throughout the Veltaran Empire, and it was causing problems. "Admiral," she reported to Kyung-ho, "we are picking up reports from across their territory. Some species that the Veltarans conquered are starting to rebel. They think that if humans can defeat the Empire, maybe they can too." "Are they right?" Kyung-ho asked. "Probably not. The humans won because of superior technology and tactics. Most of the conquered species do not have either one. If they rebel now, they will just be crushed." This was the problem that strategic advisor Chan Wu had been worried about. The humans had accidentally shown the galaxy that the Veltaran Empire was not as strong as everyone believed. But they had not given other species the tools they needed to win their own freedom. "We need to do something," Chan Wu told Kyung-ho. "If we leave things as they are, there will be bloody rebellions across the galaxy. Millions of people will die fighting hopeless battles. What do you suggest?" "We need to change the Empire from the inside. Help them become something better instead of just showing everyone how weak they are." This was a dangerous idea. The humans were 12 ships in a vast galaxy. They could not force an empire of 10,000 star systems to change, but maybe they could convince it to change itself. The first sign that this might be possible came from an unexpected source. Captain Relmok, the Veltaran officer who had been talking with diplomat Ye Jin, requested a private meeting with Admiral Kyung-ho. They met in the conference room of the Harmony, with Ye Jin translating. Relmok was nervous, but determined. "Admiral," he said, "I have commanded ships for 40 years. I have seen our empire conquer dozens of species, but I have never seen anything like what you humans do." "What do you mean?" "You make your enemies want to become your friends. This is more powerful than any weapon we have." Kyung-ho leaned forward with interest. "Are you saying that some of your people might want to try a different approach?" "I am saying that some of us are tired of ruling through fear. We have seen what cooperation can accomplish in just 3 days. Imagine what we could do in 3 years." This was exactly what the humans had been hoping to hear. But they knew they had to be careful. Change that came too fast could be as dangerous as no change at all. Dr. Gitai joined the conversation, bringing his understanding of how societies worked. "Captain Relmok, change is always difficult. People fear losing what they have, even if what they might gain is much better." "I understand," Relmok replied. "But some of us are willing to take that risk. The question is, will you help us?" It was a simple question with very complicated answers. The humans had the power to destroy the Veltaran Empire, but they also had the wisdom to know that destruction was not always the best solution. "We will help," Kyung-ho said finally. "But we will do it the human way, slowly, carefully, and with respect for everyone involved." Over the next several days, small groups of Veltaran officers began meeting with human crew members. They shared ideas about technology, society, and philosophy. They talked about what it meant to be strong, what it meant to be free, and what it meant to work together instead of against each other. Navigator Min Ji taught Veltaran pilots how to fly through dangerous regions of space by working with natural forces instead of fighting against them. Engineer Hyejin showed alien scientists how to build machines that could adapt and learn instead of just following orders. Most importantly, the humans taught by example. They showed that it was possible to be powerful without being cruel, to be advanced without being arrogant, to win without making others lose. Not all Veltarans were ready to accept these ideas. Many still believed that strength came from domination and that cooperation was weakness. But enough were beginning to change their minds that a new possibility was emerging. Maybe the Veltaran Empire did not have to fall. Maybe it could grow into something better instead. 2 months had passed since the first encounter in the Kepler Nebula. The small region of space that had once been the site of a confrontation between enemies had become something entirely new, a place where two different civilizations were learning to work together. Supreme Commander Vexthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, but it looked very different now. Where once there had been weapon displays and tactical screens, now there were communication panels connecting him to human ships and Veltaran vessels working in cooperation throughout the region. The changes had not been easy. Many members of the Veltaran High Council had demanded that he destroy the humans and cover up what had happened, but word had already spread too far. Stories of the humans' impossible victory and their subsequent kindness had reached every corner of the Empire. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving another request from the Zorkali system. They want to send a delegation to meet with the humans." Vexthul nodded. The Zorkali were one of the species that the Veltarans had conquered 200 years ago. Like dozens of other civilizations, they had heard about humans and wanted to learn about this new way of doing things. "Approve their request," he said, "and send them the standard information package about the Terran Compact." The Terran Compact was Admiral Kyung-ho's greatest achievement. It was not a treaty or an alliance in the traditional sense. It was something completely new, an agreement between species to work together as equals, sharing knowledge and resources for the benefit of everyone. The idea had started small, with just the humans and a few open-minded Veltaran officers, but it had grown quickly as more species learned about it and wanted to join. On the Harmony, Admiral Kyung-ho was meeting with representatives from 17 different civilizations. The conference room had been expanded with modular sections to accommodate beings of different sizes and environmental needs. "The key principle," he was explaining to the assembled delegates, "is that everyone contributes what they can and receives what they need. No one rules over anyone else. We are all partners in exploring and understanding the universe." Captain Relmok, who had become the unofficial leader of the Veltaran reform movement, translated for some of the newer delegates. He had learned to speak several human languages and had become skilled at explaining human concepts to alien minds. "But how do you resolve disputes?" asked Ambassador Kexalinda from the crystalline Silthera civilization. "Without a central authority, how do you maintain order?" The question came up in every meeting. Most galactic civilizations were used to hierarchical systems where someone was always in charge. The idea of equals working together to solve problems was foreign to them. "We talk," Kyung-ho said simply. "We discuss the problem until we find a solution that works for everyone. It takes longer than just giving orders, but the results are much better." Cultural Exchange Officer Mi Young had established the first interspecies university on a small moon in the nebula. Beings from dozens of different worlds came there to learn and teach. Human professors worked alongside Veltaran scientists, Zorkali artists, and Silthara philosophers. The university had become a symbol of what was possible when different peoples shared their knowledge instead of hoarding it. Students there were making discoveries that none of their species could have achieved alone. Engineer Hyun-woo had been working with a team of mixed species to develop new technologies that combined the best ideas from everyone. The latest project was a new type of starship engine that used human adaptive principles, Veltaran power generation, and Zorkali materials science. "The engine is 300% more efficient than anything we had before," he reported to Admiral Kyung-ho, "and it produces almost no harmful emissions. Clean, fast, and reliable." This was typical of what happened when different civilizations worked together instead of competing. Each species had different strengths, and when they combined those strengths, the results were amazing, but not everyone in the galaxy was happy with these changes. The Veltaran High Council was split between those who wanted to embrace the new way and those who wanted to return to the old system of conquest and control. High Counselor Zethrak had become the leader of the resistance to change. He still believed that strength came from domination and that the Empire should crush these new ideas before they spread further. "We are losing control," he argued in the council chambers. "Every day, more of our subject species demand representation in this compact. Soon we will have no authority at all." But Councillor Mexvol, who had become a supporter of the reforms, disagreed. "We are not losing control. We are gaining partners. The species that join the compact willingly are far more productive and loyal than those we rule by force." The argument had been going on for weeks, and it was tearing the Veltaran government apart. Some regions of the Empire had already declared their intention to join the Terran Compact. Others remained loyal to the old ways. Supreme Commander Vex Thul found himself caught in the middle. As a military commander, he understood the value of the old system. But as someone who had seen what humans could accomplish through cooperation, he also understood the potential of the new way. The decision came to a head when the High Council ordered him to arrest Admiral Kyung-ho and destroy the human fleet. "The humans are a threat to galactic stability," High Councilor Zethrak declared. "They must be eliminated before they corrupt our entire civilization." But when Vex Thul received the order, he made a choice that surprised everyone, including himself. "No," he said simply. "You refuse a direct order from the High Council?" "I refuse an order that would make us less than we could be," Vex Thul replied. "The humans have shown us a better way. I will not destroy that chance for our people." With those words, the Veltaran Empire officially split in two. Half remained loyal to the old High Council and the traditional ways of conquest and control. The other half joined Supreme Commander Vex Thul in embracing the principles of the Terran Compact. The split was not violent. The humans had taught their new Veltaran friends that change did not have to come through war. Instead of fighting, the two sides simply agreed to go their separate ways. 1 year after the first encounter in the Kepler Nebula, Admiral Kyung-ho stood on the observation deck of the new space station that had been built there. Through the transparent walls, he could see ships from 47 different species working together on various projects. A Veltaran science vessel was studying quantum phenomena alongside a human explorer ship. A group of Zorkali artists was decorating the outside of a space habitat with beautiful crystalline sculptures. Silthara engineers were helping to build a new type of communication array that could reach across the entire galaxy. "It is beautiful, is it not?" said a voice behind him. Kyung-ho turned to see Vex Thul approaching. The former Supreme Commander now served as the Compact's coordinator for military cooperation. His title was different, but his job was more satisfying. "It really is," Kyung-ho agreed. "When we first met, I never imagined it would grow into something like this. When we first met, I thought you were primitives who would be easy to conquer," Vex Thul admitted. "I am very glad I was wrong." Through the station's communication system, they could hear reports from across the galaxy. New species were requesting to join the Compact every day. Trade was flourishing between member worlds. Scientific discoveries were being shared freely, leading to advances that benefited everyone. Not everything was perfect. The old Veltaran Empire still controlled thousands of star systems and still ruled through fear and force. Other aggressive civilizations were watching the Compact's growth with suspicion and hostility. But something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. For the first time in recorded history, there was an alternative to conquest and domination. Species could choose cooperation over conflict, partnership over submission. "What do you think will happen next?" Vex Thul asked. Kyung-ho smiled, the same calm, confident smile he had worn during their first encounter. "What humans always think will happen. We will face new challenges, find creative solutions, and make new friends along the way. And if the old empire tries to stop us, then we will show them what we have always shown our enemies," Kyung-ho replied, "that there is a better way to be strong." As they watched, a new ship appeared at the edge of the nebula. It was a design neither of them recognized clearly from a species that had never been contacted before. The ship sent a cautious greeting message, asking about the strange collection of vessels working together in this region of space. Admiral Kyung-ho activated his personal communicator. "Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Kyung-ho of the Terran Compact. Welcome to the neighborhood. We would very much like to meet you and learn about your people. Would you like to come aboard for dinner and conversation?" Vex Thul listened to the familiar greeting and found himself smiling. Some things, he realized, never changed. Humans still could not help but smile when they met someone new, and somehow, that simple human trait had changed the galaxy forever. The greatest victory was not that humans had defeated a superior force. It was that they had convinced that force to become something better. They had shown the galaxy that strength did not come from making others weak, but from helping others become strong. In the end, the humans had won not by being,